What's up? Welcome to Tales Tomorrow. I'm Morrow, this is my friend Miecca, and we are back with some more RPG horror stories. Speaking of RPG horror stories, I want to share one of my own, but I want to wait until Miecca and Mary are both free because they're kind of a part of the story, so it's sort of important to have them. So don't worry, we're gonna have a proper Tales Tomorrow horror story to share, but in the meantime, please do enjoy some of the RPG horror stories we have for you for today. No, I don't like milk. This is one of the weirdest titles that I've ever read for an RPG horror story. I'm gonna make a wild guess. Somebody f***ed the milk, or got f***ed by milk, or something.
Or it's not milk at all.
It has... Oh yeah, you're right. Somebody got jizzed. Can I say the word jizz? Can I say jizz on YouTube? I don't know.
I think you can.
Am I allowed to? Contact warning for sexual assault against fictional character as well as inappropriate conversations with minors. Hi there. Long-time lurker, first-time poster. This is a story from a few years back in my mid-teenage years. 15 male at the time, which is relevant to the story. A lot of things happened with this particular group that was awful, but for the purpose of word count, we'll be focusing on the main antagonist and her blight against me. I've been invited to an online campaign by a longtime friend who was eager to play with me. And given this was my first full introduction to D&D, I was delighted to join. Playing an ex-aerial dancer and grave domain cleric, I thought on first impression that the party was well-rounded. We had several players in total of all different ages and backgrounds both in-game and IRL. The campaign has already been going for a few sessions when I joined. The first session I joined, we had been laughing and joking and having a great time, even with the villain of the story. I didn't see anything wrong at first. I should have been curious when my friend left. You already are experienced kind of right now in some of the RPG horror stories we've read. Please, Miecca, with your infinite wisdom, could you regale us on your potential guess on where the story is gonna go?
Now, I'm curious why their friend left. Did their friend left because they know that stuff's gonna get creepy? I bet you there's gonna be a DM who's gonna be like, hey, yo, your character, I hate your character, but I'm also a tsundere for your character, and so they're gonna force stuff on it. It's always DMs. I'm guessing it's DM.
3 sessions in, my character and me get to learn that the villain's end goal is to completely destroy the universe, following the goals of the god she worshipped, and everyone else in the party is entirely cool with it. Not once previously have you been mentioned to me before joining, so I did as I thought my character would and argued back, asking why and if it was necessary. Her response, oh well, I wouldn't destroy you guys obviously. We can remake the universe with new people and can be gods. So we have a premise of a BBG, basically, an antagonist or maybe a player, somebody that wants to destroy the world and then everybody else can be gods.
And the whole party's cool with it. So I'm guessing this isn't the hero story, this is the villain story.
It could be. Or maybe they're destroying the world for the greater good or something, like, you know, necessary evil to like bring out the corruption or something, I don't know. Since everyone else seemed fine with it, I didn't argue much at the time, though my character had a few good monologues about why it seemed morally wrong and debating attempt to end the villain's life during long rest. Not acted upon, but definitely had some good roleplay moments in there. During one of these long rests, when my character was being relatively quiet but otherwise standoffish with the villain, she asked the DM to perform this glorious action. I like to grab my character and have him drink from my breasts to make him feel better. Huh?
To make him feel better. Do you need a drink from her breast?
No, I'm okay. I'm fine. I'm good. I'm fine. Huh? Roll a strength check. Y'all, when I say I heard the record scratch in my head, I swear I thought I had misheard her. Nope. Apparently one of the gifts she had gotten for doing her god's bidding was physical form enhancements, including the ability to produce chocolate milk from her. You get the idea. Huh? What kind of a campaign are y'all playing? What is this DM doing?
What?
How? What? What in the fuck? Oh, you know what's a word actually? Flabbergasted. I am flabbergasted.
I have heard of people doing weird stuff during campaigns. I mean, we have friends who've done role plays and other stuff like that, like sexual role plays in their own campaigns and stuff like that. But like, drink from my titty and get this supple chocolate milk. It seems very weird.
Everything about it is weird. First of all, the OP, and they said they have people of various ages, so it means there could be more than one minor at this game. If you have a minor at your table, here's the #1 rule: do not bring in any sort of not safe for work topics, themes, or anything. Don't have a game where someone's breasts are augmented to have breast milk that's chocolate on command. In private games, do whatever kind of fetish stuff you want because it's your game. Do whatever. But not if you're gonna have a minor at the table.
Games with adults.
Don't do that. Yeah, do it with adults. Don't do this with minors. What the hell's wrong with you? I immediately dropped character and stated firmly that I wasn't comfortable with that, to which she tried to insist that I could roll against her, but it wasn't against the rules or anything. I let them know I refused to continue. They were going to make me do that. Luckily, the GM, upon hearing that, told her to cut it out. She complained and made snide remarks about it later on. But otherwise, we move on, or tried to. I am honestly, genuinely befuddled that the DM is like, yeah, I'll let you do that. They don't just immediately say, nope, stop, immediately, no, not at all, X-card it. You just X-card the whole thing. No, the DM is fine with it, and only stops it when the player makes a complaint. This DM is immediately one of the problems. Immediately, a weird player trying to feed breast milk to a player character of a minor player. Leave the minors out of this, you weird sick fucks. For a bit of context with this next part, I'm going to give y'all the basic rundown of what kinning is regarding late 2010s Tumblr lingo. Essentially the belief that in alternate universe you were a different person, usually a character. She had kinned her character the villain. Of course she did. This alone wasn't a problem had we not been in second to last session with this group. We're making small talk before session when I and the rest of the party got hit with this absolute banger. Yeah, I had a dream last night that the villain held down my character and struggle snuggled him while he drank my chocolate milk. I think it was a kin memory. I need to know what kinning is. I have no idea. I feel like
we skipped it. We skipped it right here. It's essentially the belief that in alternate universe you were a different person, usually a character.
I read that and I still don't know what the fuck that means. I need to know. To relate to a character on either a basis of personality, physical appearance, or trauma. He's just like me, for real, right? That's all it is?
Basically, yes.
Why are they doing like a struggle snuggle with the breast milk and everything? Why is that a thing? Why is that a thing that even comes up at the table? In front of a minor, of all things. I wish I was making this up. At the time, I laughed it off. Wildly uncomfortable that this grown woman was having fantasies of her assaulting my character, especially considering I was a minor. We had someone even younger than me as part of the party.
Oh,
they
no.
had somebody that was even younger. I called it. You have probably multiple minors at the table. Why are you doing this? But obviously they don't care because it's part of the weird sick fetishes and nonsense.
It's a mommy fetish.
It's if you have a minor at the table, you keep that shit on lockdown, no matter what, because that's not a good fucking look. Have whatever fetishes you want to have. Doesn't matter to me, doesn't hurt me. But keep the minors out of your sick fucking fantasies. What are you doing? Are you out of your mind, you lunatic?
There's role playing and then there's just being responsible. When you have minors at the table, you put all of the not safe for work stuff and jokes, you put them off to the side.
Yeah.
Especially stuff like this. The DM should have immediately put a stop to this the moment they're like, hey, I want to grab this character's kid's head and put them to bring my breast milk. DM immediately should have been like, nope, we're stopping that right then and there. Going into that realm as a DM and you're not stopping it, you are a problem as well, not just the player.
At this point, I reached out and told my friend, who in turn did the responsible thing as the person who brought me in the group, and reported her to the forum that our group had manifested from. As far as I'm aware to this day, she's blacklisted from several different larger D&D group finding spaces. Good. Because that's what you fucking deserve. Actions have consequences, in-game and out of game. I wish I could say the last session was eventful, but it wasn't. I decided I wasn't having fun and left the group. It ended up turning me off from the game as a whole up until college. And now I'm happy to report being in a lovely group where people actually listen to boundaries. Lesson learned, stand up for myself, and the first problem. Good. It's actually a good lesson to learn, and you should pass it on to other new players as well. If something's going on, you need to speak up. If the player's not going to listen, talk to the DM. If the DM is definitely not going to listen, talk to somebody outside of the game and then bow out as quickly as you can.
And I mean, if you really do want to do weird stuff that involves some little bit of kink here and there in your campaigns, keep it to adults, but also ask, be like, hey man, this stuff does involve a little bit of weird stuff here and there. Are you okay with this X list of stuff? And if the people say they're okay, then fine.
That would be a really weird checklist to like okay everything. Imagine you inviting somebody to the game. It's like, hey, so we have a checklist of some things that you can expect at the game. Chocolate breast milk, right? And enhanced breasts. Are you cool with that?
Are you good with titty milk? Yes. Are you good with thigh crushing? Yes. Are you good with
run whatever games you want to private?
Yes.
Whatever games, it doesn't matter. If you and your party and you and your group and the DM and everybody are cool with whatever's going on, nobody cares what you do in private. It's your group, your party. Y'all do whatever you want to do. Just don't involve minors into this. Simply just don't involve them into this. The Elder Brain is exceptionally strong. Quick disclaimer, English isn't my first language, so please forgive any spelling and or grammatical errors. The cast is as follows. Me, an Ulitharid warlock using Homebrew to play an Ulitharid. Paladin, a friend of mine, playing a half-elf paladin. She got me into D&D. DM, Dungeon Master, and the problem in the story. The story starts out before the campaign has even begun with me asking the DM if he was okay with Homebrew being used in the character creation, which he was, granted that he was shown the concept. I thought and still think this was perfectly reasonable, as Homebrew does have the potential to break the game if handled poorly. So I'll make a Homebrew version of the Illithid race, along with Ulitharid as a sub-race. I specifically chose Ulitharid so I could be immune to the influence of Elder Brains, which a normal Illithid would succumb to, inevitably turning against the party. I run the concept by the DM and he says it sounds interesting and I should go for it. The problem with Homebrew is that a lot of it is, while well-intentioned and well-needed, is kind of overpowered because you can have a lot of things that just simply break the balance. Being an Illithid as a player character and having an Illithid sub-race that basically makes you immune to any sort of Illithid-like influence, like Elderbrain influence. If you have a campaign that has Illithids and Elderbrains, that kind of sounds a little bit busted.
But I mean, this is why it's also important to run it by your DMs. If your DM is okay with it, then your DM should adapt to that. That's where your DM's also, that's where it's part of the DM's job. If the DM okays it, that's where it's also the DM to probably like adapt to the scenario and kind of get it to work.
If resistances are fine, immunities, that's a whole other can of worms. You got to be very careful and very delicate with how you roll that as a DM and how do you handle that as a DM. Well, my character's made and our first session begins. All the characters meeting in a tavern with my Ulitharid make a very dramatic entrance, causing Paladin to dislike him in character, as the Paladin suspects some unholy powers involving with the entrance. Since my character is a warlock, which was soon revealed, that suspicion was perfectly reasonable. The DM asked Paladin and me if we were okay with the character arc involving both of our characters that would end in the Paladin dropping her suspicion against my character, which we'll both agree to. Always good thing to do. If you want to have some sort of like a character story arc, run it through with the other player. Check to them, hey, do you want to have a rivalry, a romance, or perhaps a kinship, a brotherhood of some kind? Do you want that for your character? Because, I mean, if the other person doesn't want it, then, you know, it's going to be kind of awkward if you're trying to romance and seduce the other character the whole time without getting the player's consent, and then it just becomes really awkward.
Are you trying to choke me?
No, I was trying to rub your chest, your supple chest. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I charge for that. That'll be 5 gold.
This is the closest I can ever get to heaven. I'm a tiefling devil spawn. The first few sessions go smoothly, our party working together quite well. Because of truce, my character struck with Paladin's character to keep their dislike of each other out of combat and ensure party survival. We hacked through a couple of goblins, my Mind Blast proving especially effective. After the goblin, we had quite the RP heavy phrase, which set as the character arc that the DM suggested into motion. The horror begins in session 8, where we venture into the Underdark for the first time and happen across a small Illithid settling. By this time, the Paladin had mostly given up her suspicion against my character, so maybe the DM felt the need to introduce a bit of conflict again, or forcing me to make an intelligence check, which I failed. He told me that I fell under the influence of the Elder Brain of the settlement, being forced to turn on the rest of the party. I'm breathing in to object when Paladin pipes up, reminding the DM that Ulitharids are immune to the control of Elder Brain. At this point, I also say that I ran the concept by the DM, and he said that it was fine. I said that I did tell him I would happily make adjustments to my homebrew so it would fit the campaign better. The DM responds, and I kid you not, he doesn't care what I said, that my character failed the intelligence check and that I'm now being controlled, telling everyone to roll for initiative.
This is a special ability that we agreed to at the very beginning of the campaign. You know, now that we're eight sessions in. Yeah, no, I don't think that's gonna work anymore.
To be honest,
the DM's
if the DM
dick.
did decide, like, you know, they changed their mind. They decided, yeah, maybe I went a little bit ahead and just made you a little too overpowered. Could maybe you roll back the change? Probably need to talk to the player ahead of time just to be like, listen, I made a mistake. I didn't realize how powered it would be. I thought it would be not a problem, but I realize now I made the error in my ways. Could we please change it and move on with a fun game? But guess what? It's an RPG horror story, and these kind of outcomes don't happen in RPG horror stories sometimes. I once again object, pulling up my character sheet and quoting the passage that gave me immunity against the Elder Brain. DM gets visibly frustrated by now, telling us that he wanted this character arc to go on for a longer time, and then this was necessary for that. I once again disagree, finding it unfair the DM just ignored a crucial part of why I chose to be in Lithorid specifically, since I know you would eventually travel to the Underdark and I wanted to make precautions against Elder Brain. You might call this metagaming, but I put a lot of effort into making and balancing this homebrew, as I didn't want to lose my character because he went in the wrong place before even realizing it, since Elder Brain have quite a larger reach. I kind of feel like if you already know ahead of time what's going to happen in the story before that even happens, that's kind of considered metagaming.
Yeah, but again, like, that's the thing. Even if they knew what was going to happen, like, this is eight sessions in from what I remember, right? Like, this is, yeah,
8
so
sessions
horror
in, yeah.
begins in session 8. So I guess at this point, unless this, I mean, even if they built it with the metagaming in mind,
they knew ahead of time they're going to be going to the Underdark, though, and they knew they're going to be dealing with like Elder Brain and stuff.
I understand metagaming's a little iffy, but the player did show the list to the DM, who the DM knows exactly what they're going to be doing, you know, maybe not exactly, but he knows where the story is going to be going. So the DM has every right to sit there and be like, yo, I'm going to need you to tweak this. No immunity, but high resistance. How about that? Boom, agreed. That would have literally solved everything. In this case, the DM is backtracking on his decision in the middle of the session, completely ignoring what two players are saying and what he agreed to, and basically saying, I just want this to last longer, so we're going to completely nullify any of the things that you were saying.
Imagine if your whole campaign was about dragons, right? The dragons are going to be the big, bad, evil, you know, faction, and you made something, you designed a homebrew that makes you immune to something dragons can do. But imagine if you go into like a lava plane, like Infernus or whatever, right? Imagine you go into a place of fire, right? And you design a homebrew that makes you immune to things that are gonna give you, you know, set you on fire.
Just advantage against this one specific enemy, and that would be it.
I don't mind the trait whatsoever.
The enemy's still
saying,
pretty
like,
powerful.
What I'm saying is, like, if you know it's busted, just say it's busted. Just be like, yeah, I didn't want to lose my character to an Elder Brain because I was afraid of that, so I want to have this busted trait.
Yeah.
I want to see if the DM approves it or not.
Yeah,
Just be honest
agreed.
about it. That's all it is. Nothing is wrong with having busted homebrew as long as everybody in the campaign is fine with it, including the DM. After a bit more back and forth with Paladin taking my side and the rest of the party staying more or less neutral, the DM finally relents and my character is not being controlled. After clearing out the settlement of Illithids, this was a very difficult encounter and we barely survived, we have a long rest and end the session there. At the start of the next session, 3 weeks later, if I remember correctly, the DM starts off by telling me that my character is hearing whispers in his head, which stem from the Elder Brain, which is once again gaining hold of my character's mind. We'll pretty much repeat the discussion from last session, but this time the DM is much more confrontational and refuses to budge, eventually saying the Elder Brain is exceptionally strong enough to overwhelm even an Olitharid. You fall under its influence and start attacking your party. At this point I had pretty much had enough, so I told him that I would no longer be showing up to his campaign if he can't accept a crucial point of why I chose the subrace. The DM still refuses to relent, so make good on my word and leave prematurely. Now this might have been a bad move from my side, but I was just so fed up with the DM first approving my homebrew and then ignoring crucial parts of it. If it's only the player that's an Illithid that is prone to being influenced by the Elder Brain, on one hand, I could see why such a trait would be important. But if everybody gets affected by the Elder Brain, and this player is just using this homebrewed race in order to be completely immune to its influence, completely be immune to its control, then yeah, that's kind of busted. But I don't actually know much about Elder Brains. I don't know how much Elder Brains can influence people.
Yeah, that's the big thing. It's just like, I'll have to look at. I'm kind of curious about what Elder Brains can and can't do now. Because, like,
Actually,
yeah, you're right.
Let's go look it up. Let's go look it up. I want to see.
Look it up.
According to CreativeGameMechanics.com, Elder Brain can also use its Dominate Monster ability once per day to take control of one of the adventurers, preferably a spellcaster or a healer. It will use this thrall to disrupt the party's tactics, sow infusion, and inflict damage. If that's an important part of the mechanic in the fight and dealing with an Elder Brain, and you basically gave yourself a easy, like, immunity to it, then that seems a little bit busted in a way. I feel like you and DM should have had a conversation about what's balanced out, but to claim that you put out something that's you consider balanced when it's clearly not balanced because it gives you entire immunity from this specific ability to even be used, it's just not fair, you know? Later I get a message from Paladin saying that she was sad, maybe a bit strong of a term, but I couldn't think of a better word, that I lived the campaign. She quite enjoyed the arc our characters had going on. However, she also says that she understands and respects my decision to leave. We agreed to try and have another campaign together, with similar characters if the DM allows my homebrew. She then told me what happened after I left, with the DM taking over my character and putting him under the control of the Elder Brain. By now the rest of the players were also starting to get annoyed with this. My character gets unceremoniously killed and the party moves on. The other players start to voice some complaints about how the situation was handled too. DM still doesn't relent, prompting Paladin to also leave the campaign after the session had concluded. After this, I don't know what happened next, since I don't really have any contact with any of the other players outside the session. Just last week, Paladin and I found a DM who allowed my homebrew and had a session 0 that week, with the next session scheduled to be in 2 weeks. Hope this campaign goes better than the last one. Be very careful on how demanding you are with your homebrew, because it sounds very sus whenever a player says, if I can't have my homebrew, I ain't playing your game and I ain't gonna enjoy the game if I don't have my homebrew. I've seen some stories, I read some stories where homebrew goes a little bit too extra and gets completely unbalanced. There are some players that are dead set on having their homebrew, not the DM's homebrew or everybody else be fine with homebrew, but they're dead set on having their homebrew in order to continue. Don't let your homebrew, no matter how balanced or busted it is, be the hill you die on to enjoy a TTRPG.
There are some people in here definitely agreeing that you are giving your character a, like, very strong set of abilities. And I mean, yeah.
We're reading through the comment section for the post as well, and some people are definitely saying that, yeah, DM probably should have been a better DM, but the homebrew is
rather OP. Yeah, is building a character knowing that you're going to go to the Underdark, a little bit of metagaming. No, that's called character creation, because, like, you know what you're kind of getting into. The DM should really look into these things. I think building a character that's immune to this specific thing is not okay. I think you can get, I think having a high resistance, especially being like a half-breed, is better than having a full immunity, because like they said, they only chose that specific sub-race because it has an immunity to that.
And that'll be all our RPG horror stories for today. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you like what you see here and you like us bantering about these RPG horror stories, consider subscribing for more videos and leave a like if you don't mind. That really help a lot. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next video.
Bye.